Welcome to A1R Psychic Radio here on Moonstruck TV with Amanda Hall, psychic, all the way from the Gold Coast. Well, isn't it getting exciting? It's almost Easter. It's time for the Easter Bunny to come out. Kids are getting excited. Easter bonnet parades around the world, if they still have them, if they're politically correct. I hope they do, because it's part of the magic of children and part of their upbringing, and also, more importantly, to teach them what this festival, what this time of the year means. It's not just about chocolate bunny eggs and things like that, or candy eggs. It's about understanding why we're here. And for those religious people, it's a very religious time. And that goes across all the religions. They all have their slightly different belief systems at what Easter means. But it's a very, very sacred time. And for me, it's a time when we should be looking to walk forward to spending time with family and friends and the people that we care about the most. Whether you're religious or not, it is time to take stock and look at and be thankful for the things that you have in your life. You know, I mean, we're thankful that we've come out the other side of the pandemic and the world is starting to get back to normal. So it's a time to really celebrate this year. So let's look at the Simply Tarot card of the week. And before I flip it up on the screen, let me say to you, don't panic. It's not as bad as it seems. It's one of those, we need a little bit of balance in our lives, and the tarot's no different. We need positive as well as negative. So it's the Devil card. Now, the Devil card can be jealousy or trouble. And look, I don't think there's a person on the planet that hasn't been in a situation where they've had a little bit of jealousy or a little bit of trouble in their life from time to time. And, you know, it's not something that's going to hang around forever. It's also indicating you have the ability to break the chains that are binding you or holding you back. Now, many times in our lives, we're our own worst enemy. We're the ones that hold ourselves back or don't seek the solutions that we know that we need to implement to make the changes in our lives, whether it's fear, whether we have lack of money, or it's not quite the right time, or we were hoping for a different outcome or whatever. But quite often we're the ones that hold ourselves back. We're the ones that put restrictions on us. So I actually look at this card as being quite positive, because at least if you acknowledge what's going on in your life, and if you acknowledge that you're in a little bit of trouble, or you've got somebody around you that's jealous, then you've got the potential then of sorting the situation out, of, you know, pouring cold water on a raging hot fire and dampening it down. So I always try and find a positive even out of something that might be a little bit of a challenge, because if we didn't have challenges, then we wouldn't know when the good times come. So it's really important to do that. It doesn't have a religious connotation of the devil and burning in, you know, hell and going to hell because you've been naughty. It's not anything like that. It is more about looking at what's going on in your life and saying to yourself, if there's something there that you don't particularly like or you aren't particularly comfortable with, you have the power, you have the ability to look around you and find a solution. And I think that's sort of half the battle. Once you find the solution, then you can sort of start to get a plan of attack and start to look at how that you can fix the problems that have been in your life. I think this is a really positive card to come out. As we go into the astrology, you'll understand why, because I think it's symbolising a change. It's a changing of the guard. It's a time when we can all start to take a little bit more responsibility for ourselves and not sit there and be a victim and sort of say, oh, woe is me, I can't do anything about this, because we can do things about things. We always have choices. No matter how bleak a situation is, we always have a choice. We always have a way that we can try and find our way through and look for some different solutions to the situation. So, okay, on to the astrology, because it's a big show today with the astrology section. We've got Sun in Aries. So Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. We spoke about on last week's show. It's the beginning of the astrological year, so everything feels bright and sparkly and shiny and new. And that's good. That's the way we want it to feel. We want to feel as if we've hit a milestone. Things are starting to move forward. We're starting to find some things in our lives that we can be excited about, and that's good. So the sun is sort of sitting alone there. So it's not necessarily sort of saying that it's less powerful. It's just saying it's not having to share the limelight with any other sign or any other planet or luminary in the solar system at the moment. It can stand alone and really radiate that beautiful sunshine on us all. So we have Chiron, which isn't a planet, but it's part of the Arabian parts, which is known as the wounded healer. Now, this is where we look for where we need to heal ourselves in a chart. Now, Chiron is currently sitting in Aries. It's holding hands or conjunct Jupiter, the planet of opportunity, luck, and expansion. And it's also, Jupiter is conjunct or holding hands Mercury, the planet of communication. Now, these are all sitting in Aries. So if you're an Aries, a Leo, a Sagittarian, or a Libra, you may be finding that there's areas of your life at the moment that might be slightly uncomfortable. You might be being challenged. You might be being asked to look at how you can heal a hurt from a long time ago, or something that's come to the surface, or maybe a physical ailment. Something needs healing, whether it's emotional, spiritual, or physical, it needs healing. Now, you have the opportunity to expand right out, to search and seek the knowledge, to get the guidance, to find the practitioner or whoever it is that can help you communicate through this, can help you understand that. But sometimes by just talking about and acknowledging a problem, we're halfway there to solving it. And have an open mind. Don't just say, I don't want this or I don't like that. Listen to all the options, because sometimes it's a combination of things that will give us the answers. Now, it will affect all the other signs, but not quite as strongly. So if you're another sign, say a Virgo or a Cancer, and you've been having a few health issues, then maybe think outside the square. Look at other ways of dealing with the situation, looking for different answers, because that's really, really important. We have Mars, the planet of action, and sometimes related to the planet of war. I don't like to put that label on it, but Mars is the planet of action. It's the one that gets us out of bed of a morning, that says, come on, you've got a life to live, things to do and places to go, is actually conjunct or holding hands with the moon at the moment in Cancer. Now, Mars doesn't particularly feel comfortable here in the watery sign of Cancer, because Cancer is about emotions and not acting until I feel really, really confident and making sure I'm going to get the right result, or I'm going to feel secure, or I'm going to feel loved. So it feels a little bit uncomfortable here, and particularly when it's holding hands or conjunct the moon. Now, this will only be for about the next 48 hours maximum. So it's going to stir up some emotions, some of them that we may not be comfortable with, some of them we will be comfortable with. Some people find that, they go to sort of make a statement or have a conversation with a partner, a loved one, or a work colleague, and all of a sudden it's escalated out of all control. Everybody's starting to get emotional and maybe raising their voice or not listening or whatever. If that's the case, just back off and leave it for another day. It's not the time. If things are getting out of control emotionally and everybody's starting to get upset or angry, then walk away from the situation. Say, let's table this and let's pick this up next week, when things are a little bit clearer and people are a little bit less frayed, and you'll be able to sort of carry out the conversations then and get some better resolutions. Now, we also still have Uranus, the planet of the unusual and the unexpected, is sitting in Taurus. So this means that we really do need to be looking all the signs, particularly, but more so Tauruses, Virgos, Capricorns, and Scorpios need to be looking at what makes their world a better place. There's opportunities here for new jobs, new promotions, opportunities to make more money, to bring more stability into your life. So it's like, be aware, things can come out of nowhere like a bolt of lightning. You weren't expecting it. Bang, all of a sudden there's a job offer. Do I want this job? Do I not want this job? Some of these job situations or opportunities, maybe you have to give virtually an instant answer. So you have to be ready for any potential opportunity that could come your way. And for some people, it's going to be sort of a really life-changing experience where they weren't expecting something like this, but wow, this is what I've been waiting for, even though I didn't know I was waiting for it. It's enabling me to sort of make my dreams a reality and to get further ahead in my life with the ways that I want to. So that's a good thing. We also still have Saturn sitting in Pisces. So Saturn is asking us to sort of reorganise our goals. It doesn't matter what star sign we are, we're being asked to reorganise our goals, redefine them, make sure that we're on track, but also know that we have the ability to modify or change things or update things as we go along. Not everything is set in stone. We have that ability to be able to change things as we need to. So be aware of that. And also we have Neptune sitting in Pisces as well. So it's sort of, Neptune's in its own sign. It's feeling really, really comfortable, great for creativity, for people that might be songwriters or work in creative industries. They'll find things are really starting to flow now, and that's great. Now, the big astrological news this week that I want to share with you is the planet Pluto. Now, look, I talk about Pluto probably nearly every week on the show and have done since the beginning. Pluto has been in Capricorn now since around about 2007, going in and out, but really started its major trek around 2009. Now, Pluto has just slipped in, or dipping his toe into Aquarius. Now, this will happen until June this year. Now, I want to be very clear. This is not Pluto going into Aquarius definitely for the next 20 odd years. This is just Pluto making a little stick my toe in the water to see how things are. So what does that mean? Well, Pluto moving into Aquarius is really, really interesting because it hasn't been there since the 1800s. So it's a long time ago since Pluto's been there. Pluto takes 224 years approximately to do one circuit or go around the zodiac once. So if you can imagine that, it's over 200 years since we've seen this. So, you know, to look back in history at what happened then may not necessarily correlate or be up to the minute of what we're going to experience in the planet now. So this will affect Aquarians, Geminis, and also Librans. But you're also looking at Leos as well. I mean, it's going to affect each and every one of us, but these are the four main signs that it's going to affect, but most predominantly Aquarians. So what does the Pluto energy mean? It means that you've got to start trying to think outside the box. So Pluto will affect every single person on the planet moving into Aquarius. It's going to ask us to sort of stand up and be counted. It's going to ask us to look at our lives in a different way, through a different lens. The things that we were doing in our lives previously, if they're not working, then we've got to try and find new solutions. We've got to find new ways of doing things, new ways of tackling things. We may see some major, major breakthroughs with health situations and governments needing to find different way to solve problems. Hopefully, just hopefully, we might find some different answers on how to tackle climate change. That, you know, we've got so many people on one side that sort of say global warming's a fallacy, it's a fairy tale, and on the other side we've got the really diehard believers who believe that if we don't hurry up and do something, we won't have a planet left for our children and our grandchildren and generations to come. And then we have some other people that sit in the middle and say, well, I don't really know, it's all too complicated for me. Well, those ones that are sitting in the middle are going to have to take a side soon, because I think Pluto's going to come along and sort of ask each and every one of us to really sort of dig deep in our souls and find out what we really do stand for. So we're going to have to think about finding different creative sort of solutions. We're going to have to be careful, though, that we don't become too bombastic and try and shove our version of the truth or what we believe to be right is the only way that's right. We've got to still try and remain flexible. With Aquarian energy being a fixed energy, it sometimes can be seen as, you know, jokingly people sort of say, if you want to know something, ask an Aquarian, they know everything. And that's probably true in some ways. They do come across that way, that they're very forthright, and if they believe in something and they think they're right, they are right, and there's no changing their mind. So we all have to be mindful of that energy, that we don't become too fixed and rigid and not allow ourselves to look at someone else's opinion or their version of what they might see as the potential of something going forward. We need to make sure that we do that, because it is really, really important to make sure that we look at everything from every single side. If we do that, then we'll gain the maximum that we can gain out of Pluto being in Aquarius, which is to transform things, is to bring freshness, is to bring things out of the darkness into the light. So this little trek of Pluto sitting in Aquarius is only until June. Then it'll go back into Capricorn, and then it'll have another little short stint next year before it moves back into Capricorn for a little while, and then it'll be full thrust ahead at the end of 2024, early 25. It'll be full thrust ahead for Pluto in Aquarius. So I hope that's helped you. Now we're going to take our first caller up, and we've been talking a lot about astrology today. We're going to talk with Brandy in Burleson in Texas. Are you there, Brandy?
Hi.
Hi, Brandy. How can I help you, sweetie? Do you have a question I can answer for you?
Yeah, well, I have a million, but really, I guess the biggest thing on my mind right now is if there's anything Spirit may bring forward that is like causing a blockage with me, like preventing me from moving forward. I feel very stagnant. My gifts are definitely coming out rapidly, but I still feel very stagnant, like I'm not really moving forward.
Yeah, that's interesting, Brandy. Look, I mean, I think there's many times in our lives where we sort of feel as if we're putting the effort in, we want to move forward, and all of a sudden we don't feel like we can measure it. We still feel as if we're stuck in concrete. And quite often, usually what my answer to that is, Brandy, before I look a little bit deeper for you, is usually we are making progress, we just can't measure it yet. So it's sort of a time to sort of understand that, if we're so determined to make a change, or we've got, say 2 things on our plate that we really want to bring about in our lives and change, it's testing our strength. It's testing our belief in ourselves that, is this the right path for us? It's like somebody coming along and saying, Brandy, are you really sure you want to make that move? Are you really, really sure? And, you sort of start to second guess yourself and think, yeah, well, I looked at it this way and that way and everything else, and I can't see reasons why I shouldn't. And then you start to allow a little bit of self-doubt to creep in. Well, maybe they see something that I don't. No, it's not about that. Sometimes in our lives, we're all psychic. We all have the ability to be psychic. It's just some of us sort of chose to exercise that part of ourselves, I suppose, more, and develop it more than somebody else. So if we're ahead of what I like to say is the psychic timetable, because I believe that we all come into this life with our lives pretty much mapped out for us. Where free will comes in, we get to the corner, we can go left or right. We usually go the way that is intuitively right for us anyway, but usually if in doubt, everybody has a preference. I always turn right. If I don't know where I'm going, I turn right. And someone else will say to me, oh, well, I always turn left. Well, that's just our own way of doing things. So I believe if we're ahead of the psychic timetable, if you were, say, meant to be in a particular house until the end of 2023, then it doesn't matter what you do or how many times you try and make a change or try and make a move, you'll be blocked, stopped, the sale will fall through, the rental will fall through, the job falls through, or whatever, to prevent you from going because it's not the right time. So sometimes when we sort of start to open ourselves up and we become more in touch with ourselves, and we start to listen to our own inner voice and develop our own psychic ability more, we start to pick up on things ahead of when they're supposed to be. And we think, oh, good, well, I saw that, I better do it now, because that's what humans do. We see something, we want it now. We don't think about, oh, well, that might be 2 years down the track. We think, oh, beauty, let's go now. So I think what's happening with you, Brandy, is that you are ahead of where you're meant to be, and this is why you feel stuck. They are showing me by the time we get to the month of June this year, things are going to sort of absolutely fly open. It's like the floodgates open and we're off, we're ready, we're going. The one thing that they did show me was, were you planning or have been talking about either making changes to where you're living or a change of residence, Brandy?
Yes, I am. I'm in a position where I have to sell my house. It was an inheritance that split between me and a sibling, so we have no choice but to sell yet.
Right, okay. Is that part of the reason why you feel stuck, because everybody's sort of putting pressure on you to make it happen?
I think partly, and then partly I feel like this is my childhood home as well, so I feel like I'm not going to be able to move forward maybe until I sell the place and move and cut the ties with my mother.
They're all very real concerns, Brandy, but what I want to suggest to you is, I mean, look, you can only do your very best. You can put the house on the market. If nobody walks in with the right offer, or an offer that everybody's prepared to accept, it's not your responsibility to make it happen. Do you know what I mean? You can only do your very best. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see the house won't settle or won't sell till June. It's like everything sort of takes off in June. So whether that means we get a contract on the house, say late April, early May, but it doesn't settle till June, and then it's a flurry of activity for everything then, that's okay. But I understand where you're coming from. It's been the childhood home, and I'm going to say I don't believe on an unconscious level that you're hanging on to it. Do you know what I mean? I think you've reconciled the fact that it's time for a change, it's time for a move, the house has got to be sold, it's, money's got to be divided up, and I think you're comfortable with that on a conscious level and unconsciously too. And that took some time to get there, because this was something that you've known all your life. So it wasn't an easy emotional situation to let go of, but you now know that this is the right thing and you're ready to take the reins to your life. I think the second half of this year is going to see quite a bit more activity, Brandy. There's also, I'm seeing more money, and I'm not just talking about because of the sale of the house. I'm saying more money coming to you personally. So could that potentially be by the opportunity of you and your partner, you and your husband, looking to sort of bring extra income into the family coffers? Has there been talk of maybe potentially starting up a sideline type business, something that could give us a bit of extra income?
I've been working on a side business for about a year or two, and it's really not been very profitable. I mean, it's what I'm passionate about, but there's not any monetary profit really coming from it. I'm more in debt than I am, you know.
Yeah, but I think that's all going to come together, Brandy. It's like everything had to come to a culmination point and like a dead standstill. And then once it gets there and it's sort of, and that's where you are now, once that starts to break up and the changes start to happen, then it's like everything explodes in the most positive of ways. But I could certainly see extra income coming in from what I call a side business, you know, not your primary source of income. But again, it's not till after June. There may be a little bit of tweaking there, but I know it's something that you're passionate about and your passion really does show through, and it's going to start to make you some dollars now, which is good. So I wish you well, Brandy. Look, just be patient, sweetie. Just use this time to sort of pamper yourself a little bit and start packing or do, you know, the things that you need to do. But just know things are going to take off, and, you know, this is sort of like the lull before the activity. So enjoy the peace while you can, sweetie. Lovely to talk with you, Brandy. We're going to talk with Anne in Galloway in Ireland. Are you there, Anne?
I am. How are you?
Very well, thank you, Anne. Do you have a question I can answer for you, sweetie?
It's a relationship question.
Yeah, sure. So is there someone special in your life?
Yeah, Michael.
Okay. Can you just share with me the person of interest's first initial, sweetie, so I can tune into them? So you want to know where the relationship's going? I gather that's your question?
Yeah, Michael.
Okay. All right. Let me tune into him for you. Really, really interesting. The first thing that they're showing me around this man, is the fact that there's a lot of change around him at the moment. Has he been going through a difficult time with his work and sort of other issues connected with family? Because it's sort of like the man to me feels really exhausted, as if, you know, he just wants to breathe and sit down for a minute and catch his breath and then sort of look at what he's got to do next. So has there been a lot of activity around him recently in this last 6 months, Anne?
Yeah, there's been a few issues, like.
Yeah, but I don't think those issues yet have been resolved. I think they've been more taxing on him than what he even imagined they would be. When I ask him about you, he's got a lovely smile on his face. When I ask him where he thinks this is going to go, and he says, well, I hope it's going somewhere. I really like her. You know, I couldn't imagine my life without Anne. I think he's just got to start showing you that a little bit more, hasn't he? I mean, he's not what I call... Go on, sweetie.
That's where the issue is, isn't it? The kind of like, I suppose, all the problems that they're kind of, it's always been up and down. You know, like he's trying to establish with his work and his business, and it's up today, and then after a couple of weeks, it kind of stalls and it's going slow. And it seems like I'm all the time kind of waiting of whether or not we're actually going to progress in our actual relationship. There's always some kind of issue, you know, that kind of comes more of a priority.
Yeah, I understand that, and I understand your frustration, and I really do. But I'm also going to say to you, if he doesn't resolve these things that, you know, that are sitting on the peripheral edges, they'll always be there. So he's got to really sort of work on this and get them out of the road, get them resolved, all this other family gunk, this other messy stuff around him, so that then he can focus on you. Darling, he's not the easiest man in the world to understand. I mean, he's the sort of person, when he gets upset about things, he shuts himself off. He doesn't sort of open up and communicate and tell you what's going on inside his head and his heart. He just shuts down. And it's like pulling teeth to try and get information out of him. He's always been that way. I think the whole family's like that. And that's why I think things are so difficult to get resolved, because nobody talks about anything or nobody tries to resolve something. So I suppose the question you've got to ask yourself, Anne, is this relationship worth the effort that you've got to put into it and the patience that you've got to have for hopefully it to improve. I don't think it's going to improve in the short term, and I certainly know people don't change. You know, this is the way he is. This is the way he's wired. This is the way he deals with a crisis. Now, they're the sort of questions you've got to ask yourself is, can I live with this if the relationship progresses and gets stronger? Am I able to deal with this sort of, when something bothers him, he doesn't open up, he doesn't talk about it. It's like playing a guessing game. That's only something that you can answer. I mean, I know from going into his soul, he doesn't want to lose you. He thinks you're the greatest thing that's ever happened to him, and he's right, you are. But the thing is, I don't think we're going to be able to change him or help him modify his behaviour so that he becomes the sort of person that you need him to become, which is somebody that opens up a little bit more and can give you what you need. And that's the hard thing, is the fact that, you know, you're a very outgoing sort of person and you like to sort of resolve situations and issues. You like to be able to talk about things and find resolutions. He finds it very difficult. So, you know, I suppose whether the relationship will move forward will depend how long's the piece of string, how long's your patience. I know he doesn't want it to end, but I don't know whether or not this is going to satisfy you. You're already really questioning whether it's worth the effort now. And you need to be able to answer that for yourself. So I hope that's helped you, Anne. That's where we're going to leave Anne now in Ireland. We've come to the end of the show again. The show seems to fly by very quickly. 30 minutes doesn't seem very long when I do all the talking, but that's the way it is. This week I want to leave you with a song that it's an unusual sort of song. It has a hidden message in it. It has a message in there that people take very, very many different ways. It's been one of my favourite songs over the years, and it's something that every now and then when I think we need a shot in the arm, we need to be a little bit more positive, we need to sort of, you know, stand up and be counted a little bit, this song comes to mind. It's called Stand Tall by Burton Cummings. It's an unusual love song. He wrote it about a love that got away, but many people look at it as a song to make them sort of stand tall and really be proud of who they are. So I'll leave you with that song until next week. So happy Easter and enjoy the early stages of Pluto being in Aquarius. I think it's going to be a very exciting time as we all get used to Pluto in Aquarius next year. And, you know, we've got till the end of next year before it moves in definitely. But it's going to be an interesting time as we start to see the changes around the world and people start to look at the different solutions. So until next week, happy Easter. Bye for now.